It is not a system, and for quite some time we had the garbage truck going around doing regular patrols on the kinds of streets that were often a problem. That system seems to have broken down, and over the last couple of months at least, I've watched garbage piles grow and grow and grow. There are about 3 in my street at the moment, and plenty of other streets, and on my way here tonight I noticed quite a few along the route that I took, so I'm moving well out of Auburn and coming towards Marylands, and there was a dump there and a dump there and a dump there. You can't sort of stop the car and note the address after you go past each one, but it's pretty bad. And what we need to do is to think of a more proactive way of handling this. On the question of grass, I've got to say Auburn Park, I think they cut the grass yesterday or today, and it wasn't terribly long before that. I thought it was looking good, you know, getting close to needing to be cut, and it was cut. Around the edges though, if I can be specific, up close to Auburn Girls High, so that's a bit away from where people go, it's around the edges. Grass and weeds over 1 metre high. And a woman complained to me yesterday about a snake in there. Now, I don't know, we didn't discuss it for long, and English was such that I'm not certain that she actually saw a snake or she thought it looked like there must be snakes in there. I'm hoping it was the latter. I decided not to investigate too closely, however. Well, politicians and snakes in the grass, no. Well, I thought you might be in there somewhere. It was long, I'm telling you. It was very. Anyway, so. Yeah. So, but perhaps if around the edges of Auburn Park can be looked at, but I don't want to make it too specific. More generally, it is a problem in many places, and there are some streets which it look like the mowers have some kind of an aversion to them. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. I have Councillor Sarkis and Councillor Elmore, then Councillor Gray. Councillor Sarkis.
Mr. Mayor, I was merely going to say that I agree with all the comments that are made. The motion was a worthy motion moved by Councillor Garrard. And I note that most of the speakers were talking about Granville and Auburn. Understandably, can I say that if you think Auburn looks bad now, though, you should have seen it 4 years ago. Mr. Mayor, it is an ongoing problem, though. Look at the parks and gardens that we have in the Greystanes area, in the Wentworthville area, and I'm always in that area. And so I had about 3 or 4 phone calls just last weekend. Grass, and rightfully so, I went out to, I think it was Daniel Street Park, and the grass was over 1 foot high. And kids are meant to play soccer there and use the field. But the grass is seriously this long, and it's thick. It's not like it's, you know, some grass you can see is thin and you can run through it almost. But this is thick grass, and it was almost 1 foot high. So I understand that it's been raining, and, you know, the heat that we get enhances the growth rate. But we should have some kind of a procedure in place that can tackle this event when it happens, because it happens every year. It is a seasonal thing, and it does happen every year. And so, you know, Cumberland's been around now for 3 years. We should have been able to tackle it by now, surely. So, again, I note the motion moved, and I think it's a very noteworthy motion, and as far as I can see, everybody supports it because of that. And well done to Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Councillor Sarkis. Councillor Elmore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do agree with Councillor Garrard, and I thank Councillor Garrard for putting this matter of urgency forward. It's been disappointing, you know, in a previous place where we worked very hard to have the local area clean, well maintained, because the close of trade, you know, it's our reputation, and council has really fallen behind the last month. When I walk around, there's some of the parks and the verges of the parks, they're overgrown. I'm not criticising any council staff. I know they're busy. I know there's lots of work to do, but I think council we should put a bigger effort in to maintaining our place so the rest of the community, the rest of the other councils can look at us and see that Cumberland Council is to be a council that other councils look up to and other councils should follow. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Elmore. Councillor Grove.
I normally am quite dismissive of these complaints coming to the chamber, and particularly from councillors on the eastern ends of town. I usually have come in with a lens that part of town was never Paris in the first place. However, well, no, my end's usually been quite well serviced, and I too have noticed a deterioration in that service over recent weeks. And I can't say that all my service requests have followed through. And I think that indicates that there is a broader issue with the system. It's not something I, really comfortable with saying. I would normally write this off as an operational issue, not one for councillors, but when the operation ceases to operate, I think we've got to get a bit of an update on what's going on. I too have an open mind with respect to budget. I'm also conscious that we are able to get this done at other times of year. So I would be very keen to know what extra money would change if we were to go down that path. At the end of the day, grant days exist for staff that are not required on those days. If grass grows during the week of Christmas and the New Year, then I would have to question whether or not staff are required to mow grass. Now, if grass stops because it's Christmas, if they feel like it's a little too cold at Christmas time to grow grass, then perhaps we don't need that. But systems exist to offset staff who have to work on grant days at other times of the year. In providing that update, I would like to know not only if additional resources are required, but what if we do have to increase the allocation of funding, what alternatives have been considered along the way. Grass, to the best of my knowledge, has always grown at Christmas time, so we should have 100 years of data or so on how to manage this issue, and I'd be very keen to know why it's been such a struggle this particular year.
Thank you, Councillor Grove. Any further discussion? Councillor Addy.
I'm sorry to wait till the end, Mr. Mayor, but I couldn't hold myself back. It needs 3 or 4 to hold me back, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, first of all, like everyone else, I'd like to thank everyone for what they said, and I agree with everyone whatever they said, seeing as everyone likes to agree with everyone about everything. Mr. Mayor, I don't believe anyone in this chamber does the kilometres that I do on a weekly basis. I don't believe anyone in this chamber actually travels through so many local government areas on a daily basis that I actually travel through. And it's always so great to dismiss people or try to actually hide or band-aid effect or look at the eastern side, the western side, the northern side, etc., of this LGA. But I have never seen the amount of work and the effort that our staff has placed into this council, even before it was in Holroyd or when it was in Auburn or when it was in Parramatta. The amount of work that this staff, the current staff are doing is absolutely phenomenal. And I have to, first of all, thank and congratulate the staff for the excellent work they actually do, because no one in this chamber actually said that one of their responses was never looked at, and never looked at. We cannot, it is virtually impossible to have a person driving around in every single street to find out where all the issues are. I have a privilege that I actually do drive through streets for my work, and I see all these things. And just to put things in clarification, we are now 3 to 4 times the size we used to be. We are no longer Auburn, we are no longer Holroyd, we are no longer Granville. We are now one massive area. And yes, it will take time for all the processes that we have to come and marry in together and actually start working properly. But I can assure you, Mr. Mayor, that I go through Burwood, and I go through Canada Bay, and I go through Parramatta, that everyone puts on a huge pedestal, and Parramatta has one of the worst streets I've ever seen in my life. I can show you utmost photos I can show you 300 photos because I actually use it as a joke. And I know the staff know this, and Mr. Govers knows this as well. When I go through areas and find things that are dirty elsewhere, I send it to our staff and say, look how dirty this is. And they try and work out whether it's ours or not, and most of the time it's not ours. So before we start throwing mud at people and throwing things where they don't belong, let's look at finding a way to fix the problem for ourselves. Forget Parramatta, forget Bankstown, forget everywhere else. You guys want to see real dirt? Go for a drive down Bankstown over the next couple of days. You want to see real dirt? Go over to Fairfield. Go to Blacktown. This is where there's a lot of issues. We are nowhere near what the problems they've got over there, even Parramatta. I drive through Parramatta every single day, 3-4 times a day. And if councillors wish, I will give you tomorrow 30 to 40 photos in my 15-minute trip from Auburn to Parramatta of all the crap they have on their side. Forget everyone else. Let's fix our problem first. If we need more staff, as Ross said, as Councillor Grove said, get more staff. If we need more patrols out there, I don't see what patrols can do. We need someone that actually goes out, sees a problem, fixes it and walks on and walks off. That's what we should be doing. So please, councillors, if I may indulge a little bit, stop throwing mud at people and why they do things and why they don't do things. Let's get to the core issue, the root of the problem, and fix the problem. Who cares what Parramatta does? Go for a drive through Parramatta and have a look, especially